What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Town Biz. All right, so dominating performance by Clarissa Shields. She continues to amaze and continues to prove all the naysayers wrong. Clarissa Shields fought in front of a packed house at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. I guess you could say that's her home away from home, even though she's from Flint. But that should be her home base. She fought in front of a 16,000 crowd fan base. And for the most part, it was a dominating performance over Lonnie Daniels. At the end of the day, Carissa Shields she's, you know what I'm saying? She's cementing and planting her flag as one of the greatest boxers that ever lived, male or female. At the end of the day, it is a bit of a difference because, female boxing due to the fact that they primarily, for the most part, fight 2 minute rounds. But nevertheless, that doesn't take away from Clarissa Shields' greatness. She did her thing. And, a lot of people don't know 71% of the tickets sold at Little Caesars Arena was by women. And probably out of that 71%, probably 68% of them was black females, which is cool, which means she's breaking the mold. She is attracting women to professional sports, and particularly boxing. See, at the end of the day, um, she's fighting in front of sellout crowds. She sold at the smaller venue that she fought at in Flint, basically. But she's doing her thing. You know, nobody ain't gonna say nothing about Lonnie Daniels, which I got, you know, ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Ain't nobody gonna make a big deal out of it. But for the first 2 round, Lonnie Daniels was on her bicycle. She was intentionally trying to frustrate Carissa Shields, get her off her game, and Carissa Shields figured out what she was doing. She said, "All right, I'm gonna stalk her, and then I'm gonna walk her down." Now, earlier in the fight, Carissa Shields was swinging well out of range, but she settled down after the second round, and she started to pace herself, and she started to walk Lonnie Daniels down. Landing hard shots, landing hard body shots. I think what was the tail of the tape, Carissa Shields looked very well throwing those body shots. Now, sometimes Carissa Shields, she does load up sometimes when she's throwing her hooks. So she does have a tendency of loading up, but the jab was working for her. I think if she would have tried to throw more uppercuts, she possibly could have put herself in a position to get the stoppage. You know, Lonnie Daniels at times had her moments. Carissa Shields, one thing she need to work on a little bit. She is subjectable to a hook because she was getting hit with a lot of hooks in that fight and a couple of leads. But besides that, she fought a dominant performance. At the end of the day, you can't expect a person to be picture perfect in every fight. Two of the judges had her only losing one round. One judge had it a wipeout, had it like had a wipeout pretty much. And if you wanted to be generous, you can give Lonnie Daniels the 12th round. But I thought for the most part that Shields, it was just another dominant performance. What's out there for her? Like I said, she really wants the Laila Ali fight. We haven't heard from Laila Ali, but you know, I want to see Laila Ali. I want to see Laila Ali respond. At the end of the day, Laila Ali ain't looking too good right now because at the end of the day, she said that's how much it would take. She's yet to respond. It's been a week. We want to hear her say something. Either say she will accept the fight or turn down the fight. At least give Clarissa Shields the common courtesy of either, you know, declining the fight or accepting the fight. But from what I see, it looks like Laila Ali isn't gonna take the fight, even though this would be life changing money. At the end of the day, she would rather preserve her and she'd rather preserve her undefeated streak instead of like making a very lucrative amount of money for basically 20 minutes of work, win, lose, or draw. At this point, she wouldn't even be expected to win. It would be the fact that she did it for the culture, she did it for the sport, she did it for women, she did it for black women. That's all we're asking Laila Ali to do, to be an ambassador. But she's more worried about keeping her record intact instead of, actually taking a chance. That 15 million could do a lot for her. She's never made 15 million in total purses as a fighter, period. Hasn't even been close. The thing is with Laila Ali, evaluate Laila Ali's competition. I know Laila Ali had knockout ratio, but you really can make an argument of the quality of opponents that Laila Ali fought. The thing is with Laila Ali refused to fight Ann Wolf. They were in the same weight class. Laila Ali still to this day makes excuses about not wanting to fight Ann Wolf. I think Laila Ali was afraid of Ann Wolf, and she just didn't like that fight for her because Ann Wolf got one of the most vicious knockouts, period. I'm talking about male or female. When Ann Wolf flatlined that lady, that's one of the most vicious knockouts ever. And I think Laila Ali saw that, and she was like, I don't know about that. Because at the end of the day, that name Ali carries a lot of weight, carries a lot of history, and I just think she didn't want to take that chance. Even though her father lost fights, and her father was stopped by Larry Holmes, and then went on to lose to Trevor Berbick. I just think she cared more about keeping her zero intact and fighting the type of competition she fought versus like basically, taking a chance. Why not? Why not fight Clarissa Shields? Obviously, Clarissa Shields isn't a big puncher, and she was talking about she would knock Clarissa Shields out. I don't want to hear this stuff about age and all that kind of stuff because she the one that says she goes to the gym. She the one that says she stays in shape and all this kind of stuff. I just think she didn't think that Clarissa Shields was ever going to call her bluff. She appears to have found some backers that came up with the money. Um, in all likelihood, that fight would end up on Netflix. I think Netflix would pick that fight up. So, with that being said, there's people that still don't believe it. Was Carissa Shields always flat footed? That's just how she is. She isn't what you would call light on. She isn't what you call light on your feet, you know. But she can move around decent enough. Um, You're not gonna see her ever do the Ali shuffle and float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, but she's a good pacer. It's the difference between being somebody that can float on their feet and can pace. And that's what Canelo can do. Canelo can pace, but he isn't light on his feet. He does have what you would call cement feet. That's why a lot of people think he's gonna struggle against Terrence Crawford, which we will find out in basically a little, which we will find out basically a little less than a month and some change as we head into the last week. Well, basically, this is the last week of July. So we will find that out. But me, myself, Laila Ali should just take the fight. Manny Pacquiao fought at 46. Like I said, Larry Holmes came out of retirement, I think like at 57 or something. They fought Butterbean or something. He was like in his 50s when he fought Butterbean, even though Butterbean wasn't nothing to write home about. He was the king of the four rounders, and Butterbean didn't fight the best guys out there, but nevertheless, Larry Holmes still came out of retirement. Like I said, Laila Ali been taking shots at Clarissa Shields for years. at the end of the day, she gonna feel some kind of way. Now, I'm laughing at the fact that they have these newfound Laila Ali protectors that's calling Carissa Shields a bully and all this stuff. And I noticed that Carissa Shields has been under attack for her basically, her relationship with Papoose. People are trying to insinuate that she broke up a marriage and all that kind of stuff, and people saying that she can't do an interview without mentioning Papoose. Like a lot of women, in particularly, some of the black women, they just haters and they miserable and stuff. Like I said, I've never seen a time where like giving props to a man, something is wrong with that. That's like a sign of weakness. And that's why a lot of these women are sitting up alone, with a cat or with a vibrator or a toy, a vibrator toy. Because at the end of the day, they didn't succumb to this matriarch bullshit, this feminist bullshit. So, at the end of the day, Clarissa Shields has been a totally different person. Clarissa Shields was headed towards the point to where she was headed towards being unlikable. She was almost to the point to where people were starting not to like her because she was going on these platforms saying this stuff about she want to fight men and all this kind of stuff. And, people was like, what are you doing? And then shout out to Carissa Shields for singing, have somebody singing the Black National Anthem. Carissa Shields, since she got with Papoose, you seen the growth in her. You seen her evolve. She's a more friendly person. She's a better media person. And ain't nothing wrong with a man helping you better yourself. And I don't want to turn this into a battle with the sexes video because that's another video for another day. I want to continue to celebrate the greatness of Clarissa Shields, but Laila Ali need to pick up her phone. She need to give an answer, yay or nay. Yeah, and here's the thing though. Look what's happening. Look how she's benefited from and look how she's benefited from that. She's picked up a bigger male fan base and a female fan base. Because there are women that don't want to hear women always going in on me. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you are participating in a male dominated sport. And for you to be sitting up here trying to bash men and talk about men, then that doesn't make any kind of sense. Where most of the promoters, you're in a male dominated field when it pertains to professional boxing. Most of the promoters are men. You know what I'm saying? The more popular fighters are men. And like I said, look where it got Carissa Shields since she's been with Papoose. They've helped each other. Carissa Shields been everywhere. Okay. Her popularity has grown. Look where she is now. Everybody wants a piece of Carissa Shields. She's more likable. Because a couple of years ago, she was very unlikable. And I was saying that. Look how she's more approachable now. Look how friendly she is, and she gets it. Because to be honest with you, she never really had that. Unfortunately, Remy Ma's ghetto trash ass didn't realize what she had. Maybe Carissa Shields does. I've interviewed Carissa Shields a couple of times. She gave me some great interviews. And I just saw when she was on Club, and that's another thing people mad about. She was on Club Shay Shay. Because you got all this, because she going against the bullshit black feminazi sisterhood. You know, a lot of black women were mad because she was on Club Shay Shay because they mad at Shannon Sharp because of what happened with Shannon Sharp and the white girl. That don't got nothing to do with Carissa Shields. Why would you miss the opportunity to market yourself and market your brand and let everybody know you got a fight coming up? Because at the end of the day, it's not about that all the time. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna ether Michael Rappaport for calling himself wagging his finger at the black community talking about we can't talk about Hulk Hogan and talk about what we not gonna do. Who the fuck you talking to, cracker? But anyway, we don't take orders from you. We can say whatever we want to say about Hulk Hogan. There ain't nothing you can do about it. So I'm just saying because I done had it up to here. I done had it up to here with people trying to wag their finger at black men and black women, telling us what we can talk about, who we can talk about, and when we can talk about it. Oh no, this ain't 19. This ain't 1922. This ain't none of this. Oh, you speak when spoken to. When I want your opinion, I'll give. Nah. Mm-mm. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna address Remy. I'm definitely gonna address him. But anyway, Let's get back to. She is very marketable now. She laughed when I said, yeah, I saw your movie. I had proof. I got the ticket. I was gonna show it to you." So, like I said, and I'm telling you, Carissa Shields is gonna give a great post-fight interview. And here's the thing: Papoose stands in the background. He doesn't sit up there and try to compete with her for shine. Papoose stands in the background and gives her a shine. At the end of the day, Papoose is a celebrity within his own right. Of course, people gonna want to do interviews with Papoose. I did an interview with Papoose. So I mean, that's what I'm supposed to do. But he doesn't interfere. He doesn't get mad. He doesn't get mad when, all the cameras are on her. He look at the interviews with Carissa. Papoose gladly stands in the background. So he doesn't try to compete with her for shine. He has his own shine. He has his own notoriety. So when I hear women lying on Papoose, which a lot of them are doing, I have to call bullshit. And I think the sky's the limit for Carissa Shields. Like I said, the path she's going right now, that's the road she needs to keep driving down. Because she's headed for greatness and she's headed for superstardom. Don't get caught up in that feminist stuff. Cause you just can't do that. You're in the wrong. I'm telling you, you're in the wrong line of work to be trying to pull that. If you think I'm lying, go look at her interviews. You don't see Papoose standing like right next to her. He stands in the background. He stands in the background. Now, when he's by himself, you say, hey, Poose, you got a minute? Pap, you got a minute? He'll be like, yeah. I think they both know the assignment. Papoose understands he's a celebrity. He understands that when he goes to these events, of course, people are going to want to talk to him as well. But he also understands that Clarissa is the star and he lets her be the star. He doesn't mind. I'll put it to you this way. This is going to be the best analogy, and don't take this the wrong way. Not that he doesn't mind. He doesn't mind being, you know, the male version of Jada Pinkett, where we all know that Clarissa Shields is Will Smith, but he doesn't mind. Even though Jada is a celebrity in her own right, we all know that Clarissa is in that line of work. She's the top dog, and and women should be celebrating that. But instead, they're mad about whatever reason, and I think that's the best analogy. And somebody gonna steal this from me too. Watch. Somebody go steal this analogy from me. But see, the thing about Pap, he doesn't mind being jaded. Doesn't mind being, and no, I'm not calling them a woman. I'm just making a comparison. Not calling them a woman or none of that stuff. So don't try to twist my words and say, oh, tell me it's called. No. She probably going she might become a promotional free agent. She might promote herself. She might have a clout to where she could do it herself. But if I was a gambling man, this would be the perfect opportunity for Eddie Hearn to sign her. She's not going to sign with the PBC. We don't know what's going on with Top Rank because Top Rank is up in the air. because they just did their last fight on ESPN about an hour ago. So they just wrapped that. So they just wrapped that deal. But Timothy Bradley said that you haven't seen the last of him. Sometimes I might be okay with not seeing Timothy Bradley anymore because Timothy Bradley comes across as a super hater. I mean, Timothy Bradley was just over criticizing Shoo Shoo. I mean, he was just overly criticizing him. At the end of the day, yes, Emiliano Vargas got a first round knockout, but that could be deceptive. Ask Edgar Berlanga. So my thing is, Shushu fought a good fight, and he did what he was supposed to do. Hey, you can't get the knockout if the dude won't cooperate and go down. So I mean, at the end of the day, he fought a great fight. It was an action-packed fight. I mean, what more do you want from these dudes? And Tim Bradley just likes to pick and choose. He likes to micro critique a little too much for my taste. And what he tried to do is to make sure people don't accuse him of um, tearing down black fighters. He tries to throw Steve Fulton in the mix and a couple of other people. But we all knew what Tim Bradley was doing. Like my thing is with Tim Bradley, you only got 13 knockouts out of 33 fights. So my thing is you wasn't no knockout artist, but you telling somebody else they need to be a knockout artist. Shushu has like maybe he has 16 fights. He has 16 fights, I think, with 9 knockouts. So, and his next 10 fights, he on pace to surpass you in overall knockouts. So, Tim, he got to stop with that shit. A dude that didn't have that many knockouts shouldn't be trying to give a dude advice on how to sustain and get more knockouts because you're not that guy. Yeah, Tim, sometimes it get to the point to where you just don't even want to listen to him talk. A lot of people was on the buck dancing and was buck dancing this week. Blair the Flair Cobb, and I'm gonna have to holler at Blair the Flair Cobb. Like, bro, if you trying to get a fight with Devin Haney, just ask for a fight, dude. Instead of talking about they bad for boxing, they ruining boxing, dude. It's a difference between saying stuff that you believe and saying stuff just to get about you. And I'm not going to give you props for saying those stuff that even is absolutely ridiculous and absolutely absurd. And then you had, Sean Porter tap dancing, and I'm gonna speak on all that later on. You know, I'm gonna speak on that later on. Like all them dudes need to start a reality show for real because Quentin Rampage Jackson, he be cooning it up. I mean, I never knew Quentin Rampage Jackson was such a coon, but he really is. But anyway, you guys, we will continue this conversation later. Boy, about to go eat, so stay tuned. It's your boy Town. I'm out.